The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi everyone. I hope everybody's Wednesday is going well. Welcome to the new features of TimeTrak 4. Let me shut this bit down so that we're not distracted by it. So it's been long awaited, TimeTrak 4, and we're very excited to be able to introduce you to some of the new features. Some of the things that we're going to cover today are that we are introducing attachment categories. This is for those clients who have lots and lots of attachments and checklists and they'd like to organise them in TimeTrak Professional and Mobile. We are also now integrating with MYOB's EXO CRM. So in TimeTrak Mobile only, you can see, create, edit prospects, and against those prospects or existing clients, you can create opportunities and quote them. We also have job cost quoting and purchase orders in TimeTrak Professional now. So we did have that in mobile and we've brought that through to Professional also. We have some new licensing options and we're changing our licensing model around a little bit. So I'll explain that a bit better. Task importing. Anybody with TimeTrak that does project work will enjoy the enhancements around task importing. Our checklists have been enhanced. We have rostering now. We have a new feature that is a significant player in TimeTrak 4 and our queues, and I'll explain those in greater detail shortly. We've got new functionality around maps, and our work groups have become quite a powerful tool in themselves. Our scheduling and appointment enhancements, we have improved timeline scheduling, and we have item customizations. So moving on to our first topic. And I'll just say before we get started that if you pop in your questions, I'll look at them at the end of this and I'll answer any that I can at the end. So I'll kind of run through everything, take notes if you need to, and then at the end I'll answer questions. If I've missed any of your questions, feel free to email the support@xsoft.net.nz and I'll respond to you as soon as I can. So our attachment categories are available in TimeTrak Professional and in TimeTrak Mobile. We have 3 out-of-the-box categories. They'll come out of the box with checklists, general, and photos. You can create any number of categories yourselves. So, for example, if you had checklists that were health and safety, checklists that were site analysis, checklists that were job completion checklists or things like that, they could become their own categories. And we can set up your checklist forms to save automatically into those categories for you. Likewise, you could have photos, you could have plans, you could have schematics, and those could be, any of those attachments could be saved to those categories as well. Just making it easier for both the professional and the mobile users to filter down all of your attachments so that they're grouped in meaningful groups. So this is just a quick snapshot, and I do have a video to show you. So the categories are set up in the admin console. Once they're set up, they can be edited, and you can add more to your own. And here's a quick screenshot of what it looks like on a job. And if I come to my next one, I actually have a video here. If I get my mouse to show up. So this is a job. And if I come to the attachments here, you can see that I've already got 2 attachments, one under photos and one under software. I can browse for another attachment. Add a description if I need to. And now we have the categories that we can choose to put it in. On saving that, it's going to show me that I've now got 2 attachments under photos and 1 in software. Likewise on TimeTrak Mobile, it's a bit jittery. We can come down to attachments. Now it by default shows all categories, but we can filter by that and it will show the 2 that we've just, or the extra one that we've just saved. And if we add an attachment, we choose our file. If required, give it a description and pick our category. And if we have a look at those attachments on the job, we can group that by a category now. So that is our new attachment categories. CRM opportunities and prospects in mobile. Now, there is a reason why we've put this in mobile only. It is to take your salespeople out of the office and give them the opportunity to capture their new sales opportunities whilst they're out in the field. We don't do the converting into a sales order or a job from within TimeTrak. That happens back in XO CRM. But what we allow you to do is create those prospects and maintain their information. So if phone numbers and things change, then you can update that and you can follow up on them. So if you're out on one prospect, you could look up all your others or opportunities that you have on the go in a similar area, and you would be able to follow up on them while you're out and about. From within TimeTrak Mobile, you can create the opportunity quote, and that quote can be emailed. We also allow you to create XO tasks and activities. They themselves do not pop up in TimeTrak as TimeTrak activities, but they will pop up as activities in XO. You can add to the quotes now not just stock items, but also your bill of materials, and we've got some cool functionality around that. All of your quote forms within TimeTrak can now match what you have set up in XO. So if you have a consistent look or a logo or a layout that you'd like to use, then we can pick that up and use that in TimeTrak as well. It does have to be created in the TimeTrak report writer. And you can also view any jobs that are created from an opportunity. So I've got a wee video here. So this is prospects in TimeTrak Mobile. We can add a prospect. We'll enter in our name. It's Henry Socks today. Sock company. Now, if we had types set up in XO other than non-account, then we would be able to select them in here, but in my system, I don't. So that's my prospect created. I can now create a contact against him. Keeping in mind that your prospect is what gets converted into a debtor account. And it turns out that Henry Clearwater is my alias. So once our prospect is set up and we've got a contact against them, we can create an opportunity. And he could have more than one. So you would see a list if he did. It's already preloaded our contact. And all of the settings with type, lead, and stage all pull through from the XO CRM. Now you can assign this to any other user. Now in this screen, we can add in extra fields. So if there is extra fields that you have against your opportunities, then we can pull those through. So here's our opportunity now. We've got our prospect, our contact. We could edit or delete the opportunity, add activities, run reports in mobile, and now we can add the quote lines. So in this example, I've got some bill of materials that I'm going to add. And I can update the quantity. I can update my bill of materials sell price. I can also add in options as well, so custom options against the quote lines. So we'll just run through this again. So what we end up here is we can see our quote options against our lines. We can hide the kit components so that if you were to produce a quote that is just the header lines, then we could do so. And here's an example, a preview of the quote form that we would put out. So your mobile guy could check this before he emails it to the client. And when he's happy with it, he can just return back to the opportunity and send the opportunity quote. Now you can have more than one form, and that form can be chosen at the time that he needs it to be sent out. And that's the very quick introduction to CRM and opportunities. Job quoting and purchase orders in professional. So in here we can add and edit quote lines to the job from the job screen. We can produce quote forms within TimeTrak Professional. We can add purchase orders in as well, and we can create the purchase order form also. So I'll just run through that for you. So I'm in a job here at the moment, and we've got some new tabs. One of them is purchase orders. Now I can see existing purchase orders in against this job. I've got the option to edit it. If it is unreceipted, I can delete it, and I can add a new one. The process is pick your supplier. And this will bring you to what's known as the purchase header of it. So this is the first part of the form, and you can enter in a narration if required. And then we have a tab for the lines. And then here you hit on the little plus icon, and you pick your stock items that you would like to order. Now, depending on the permissions that you have, you may see cost group, cost type. It's all optional. The Save and New option will just bring you a refreshed stock choosing screen. And clicking Just Save will take you back to the lines screen, where you can see each line that you've added. So I'm going to save and close this. And it will show on the job screen now that we have 2 purchase orders. If I come back into this purchase order, or if I had just saved it, I could add attachments to the purchase order, and I can now run reports, which is my purchase order report, which is really the form. And it looks like this. I could save this as a PDF and then email it out. In this video, I'm going to show you what it's, when my mouse returns, show you creating the quote lines. So again, we're in the job, we've got the quote lines here. We have an existing quote line, and we can see all the quote lines that are existing. We can edit and delete it. These do flow back immediately to job costing, so there isn't a syncing process in here, it's immediate. Again, we come to the stock chooser. We can add quote options from within TimeTrak Professional. You can choose the copy to option as well and assign a serviceable unit to the quote line. Now you can type in the search bar to find stock items as well, so you don't have to run through a giant list. And now we have our new items quoted on the job. In these columns here, we can filter by anything here, and we can also order by it. So each of those columns in any of these grids within TimeTrak 4, you can filter and order. So I'm just going to save my job. And then I'm going to take you to the Reports tab on my job. And in that, I've got a job quote. And again, you could have any number of these reports. So you might have a detailed one, a summarized one. It could be broken down into, custom areas or by option. and this is what you would have. We are providing clients with what you see here in this video. So these quote forms, purchase order forms, they'll come as sort of out of the box. They've got all of the data sort of set up behind the scenes. So it's just a case of customizing it to match your business. Okay, our new licensing options. So we are changing the way, from the 1st of January, we are changing the way of how we're licensing TimeTrak, and with TimeTrak 4, we're including some things in licensing. So some of the new things that we have is a contracting license, a contractor license, sorry, a subcontractor license, a schedule-only license, a schedule-only subcontractor, an equipment license. All TimeTrak 4 licensing now includes TaskTrak and the knowledge base module, so they're not separately billed out anymore. And we will have a low price increase with the release of TimeTrak 4. Any existing quotes that we have out there for licensing at the moment or for new clients, they are still valid, and unless, of course, our new pricing model will give them a better deal. So if they were looking to buy the knowledge base or TaskTrak, better that we re-quote to TimeTrak 4's new licensing model where they don't have to pay extra for that. Okay, so basically we've got two ways that it will be invoiced out, and that we've got two types. One where you've got a TimeTrak access license, so they have access to the websites, and one where they are only scheduled by other users. And our pricing is reflective of those two models. So we've got our TimeTrak professional license, TimeTrak mobile, our contractor, subcontractor, schedule only, and it tells you in brackets in here, and I do have a release notes or a what's new document for TimeTrak 4 that I will be sending out after this that has all of this information for review as well. So the model's changing in that we have different licensing up to the number of users. That up to a number of users is the number of total users across the whole product. So if they are both professional and mobile, say you've got 3 professional, 20 mobile, we count that as 23 licenses. Timesheet Manager still has its original licensing. And these are the kind of permissions that we have per user. So a TimeTrak professional user can log in. They have a setting as to whether or not they can log into mobile. They can use the Outlook add-in. They can't do consume budgets. So we've brought in some, we are quoting jobs, we'll consume budgets. They don't have a supplier against them. So for example, our contractors, subcontractors, schedule only and subcontractor mobile, they are set up against a supplier. Now the behavior around our subcontractors and contractors are that they've probably got a supplier behind them. They would issue a creditor invoice, or in the case of a contractor, they may be on your payroll. So that's a setting. But your subcontractors would not be on your payroll, and you may not want them in to TimeTrak anywhere. You may just wish to schedule them. And when you create an appointment against your contractor, subcontractor, or subcontractor schedule only, it creates a purchase order against the job for that supplier so that you can track what you've been booking in. So that's fantastic if you really do have contractors. Your equipment licensing is only requiring one staff user to be set up, so it could be called equipment, and multiple job cost resources to identify the equipment. Obviously, they never ever log into TimeTrak Mobile, but it allows you to have your assets that may go out on the job be booked in, and other users can see what they're supposed to be using from within mobile. And if you do charge them out on the job, then you can do so as well with your equipment licensing. Right, moving on to task importing. This has been asked for as long as I have been working with TimeTrak. Anybody with TaskTrak that does layers of tasks or works on projects has wanted the ability to import tasks. So we've got two models now that we can support. You can convert a job quote line into a task. So if you've quoted it and you'd like to take the lines that you've quoted from the job, then we can convert them into tasks. We also have the ability to set up Excel sheets, and I can send through a mock Excel sheet that gives you the kind of basic layout that's needed, the columns that are required, and the setup examples that we've got, and send them through to you, and you can have a play with that. These templates can be saved in the admin console, and then we can download them each time we need them, modify them if required, and then upload it again. I don't demonstrate that in my video, but it is doable. So we can import our tasks from those Excel templates, and they can have a master and sub job relationship in the template. So this video does run through the two methods that we've got. So I'm on a job, and I come to my import tasks option. Now this is showing me the quote lines. So the first step here is import from quote lines. I can grab a single quote line here, and I just click import selected lines, and that turns it into a task. Now we haven't assigned this to anybody, and we haven't made any changes. That's a little bit further down the track. Now that line's grayed out, and if I click on import from Excel, I can now pick up an Excel document. And please don't all laugh at my attempts to find my document. It gives me a second. Now what that's going to do is load in my tasks. So you can see here from my template that I've got some master tasks and subtasks. Now you don't have to select all of them. You can select just one, or you could just click on the tick box at the top and it will select everything all at once. And you select import selected lines, and it runs away and creates you all of those tasks. And the blue line there is showing that we've got some subtasks against it. Now, if we click on Manage Tasks, and I'll just take you to our next slide, this is our new Manage Tasks report, but it has functionality behind the scenes. So from that job screen, we had two icons, the import task one on the right, and on the left is the Manage Task one. So from the job perspective, we can now come into all of our tasks, and we can manage them from within the screen. And this is quite handy as well. So here I've selected a single task or one, and I right click and I can update the options. So I could change my start and due date, the statuses. I can assign it to a particular user, and as soon as I update it, it's assigned that task to that user. And again, these could be in random order, and any of those fields could apply. So it might be that we want to set the due date out for a couple of weeks, or change the priority, set the status to no charge in bulk. Then we can do so in one quick move. And as soon as we've done that, it's updated it. So that is our task importing changes. And next topic is our checklist enhancements. So we've added quite a lot of enhancements to checklists. You can email now more than one checklist report. We've done this so that you might have one report that goes out to internal people, and it might have all of the checklist questions and answers in it, and you may have a checklist report that is for external purposes sent to your clients, and you may only have some of the questions and answers in that. It may be formatted differently. It might be that a checklist has to be in a layout that's appropriate for one organization so that they could electronically save it, and it might be different for another client. So we can have more than one checklist report against a checklist. We can have a checklist report emailed out based on an answer. Each checklist report can be sent to different users with different details in it, which is kind of what I just said. What this allows us to do is have the mobile user complete fewer checklists, potentially, that can contain many partial checklists that have their own reports and email settings. So where you might have multiple checklists for a single job or for a single piece of work, because it covers different things, we can now incorporate that into a single checklist. The coolest feature of all of this is that we can now save checklists as drafts as well. And when a checklist is saved as a draft, it could be that we have a rather complete checklist, and one guy will go out and do a piece of work, and he'll complete his part of the job and save it as a draft. Somebody else may go out to that same job and see that there's a draft checklist and complete his part of that checklist and save his bit. And it might go through a few users that go out onto the job before it actually gets saved and emailed both internally or externally. Or it could be that the guy starts his draft in one area, moves on to a different part of the building, completes some more, takes some more photos, edits something, goes back and rechecks settings on something, and he needs to make some changes before he submits it at the end of the job. And the other thing, of course, that's really good is that by saving it by a draft as well, if he drops out of internet connection because he's gone deep into a basement or something like that, then he can come back and complete it when he needs to, when he's back into internet coverage. So in this video, I'm showing you what it looks like in the admin console. So before I start the video, I'd just like to point out that we've got checklists and partial checklists now. Our partial checklists are the ones with the slightly yellow background, and the main checklists are the white ones. Now, a partial checklist doesn't have all of its own reports and things like that unless we throw that in as a question. Main checklist is the one that we have the bulk of the setup around. A partial checklist can be called by any number of main checklists. So, for example, you might always have that you need the site manager's signature, the client's signature, and your terms and conditions showing on every document. That could be a partial checklist, and we embed that into every main checklist that we have, and it just repeats every time. So we only ever have to create it once, and we can pull it into any number of checklists. Okay, so I'm going to come into the, I'm showing you here that we can add a standard or a partial checklist. And we can, hide all of the partial checklists if we need to. So the layout and everything, anybody who's set up a checklist will see that. One of the new things that we've got at the moment, one of the new features of checklists is a drawing canvas, and I'll demonstrate that to you shortly. We also, for those clients that use serviceable units, now have a direct link to the serviceable units that are on the job. And the things that we've changed, for example, is, for example, a drop-down list. You could have a SQL query. So, for example, all stock items where they are active, or we can have what we call a list. And when we add in a list, if I give this checklist item its own name, so did you identify any hazards? Now the caption may be yes, the value would be yes, and in this case I can assign another checklist that will be fired off when the person answers yes. I can also set in here who receives that checklist. So for the answer yes, it would fire off our ordered checklist, and the internal email address .com would be the person who receives that. I can then have my answer no, and there's no checklist assigned to that. They don't get prompted to fill out anything else, and they move forward. Here's an example of one of the checklist reports that we have against this. So this is the formatting of the PDF. And I can add in more than one. I can pick the category that it's going to, and I can choose again where it was going to go to. So one checklist report may go to one email address, another checklist report will go to another one. We've also extended the ability to filter our checklists by job types, job categories, and job statuses. So historically it was just job types. Now you can filter a checklist on any of them. What that means is that those criteria have to be met for that checklist to show up. Now here's the example of what it looks like in TimeTrak Mobile, and I will be showing you what the new features look like. So the biggest and coolest new feature, I think, is our drawing canvas. So in this case, what we can do is we can draw on this. It's a blank canvas. So you could have just drawn a picture if you like, or you could upload a picture like I have here, and you can draw on top of it. So this is great if, for example, you've arrived on site and you take a photo of an obvious hazard or something like that, but once you look at the photo, it's not so obvious. You can come in and draw a big circle around it and say, hey, look, see this big puddle of water? We noticed this and we cleared it up. Or, for example, I've got a plan here that I've got saved and I'm putting in some pictures around it. These are the serviceable units that are saved to the job. And as you can see here, we've also added the thumbnails to our pictures. So you can upload multiple pictures. And you can see each thumbnail before they're saved. This is great so that if you don't, accidentally duplicate your images. Now in this case, I'm saving it as a draft. And if I actually look at my job now, I can see here in red that I've got one draft. And I can come up here, it'll show at the top of the list. And everything that I saved beforehand is still saved to my draft. You just click continue to then submit the checklist, and this is where things will get emailed out to your respective email addresses, and it would be saved to the job as a completed PDF. So on continue, it cannot be edited. And it's saved to our attachments. And I did open this up, and this is an example of what your PDF could look like. Rostering. So one of the biggest things that we have for complex organizations is where they would get paid different rates or charge out different rates to their clients depending on the hours that they're working. So if they work before 8 o'clock and after 5, they might charge time and a half. Now, historically in TimeTrak, this required either the end user and mobile to check in and check out and choose different labor codes, or somebody would retrospectively go and split the time entries and assign them to different rates and different labor codes. What we've done to work around this or work with this is we've got roster classes. So the roster classes are assigned to labor codes against users. And then we've got a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week kind of block system where we can assign a roster class against a time frame. Then what happens is your schedulers would go ahead and create the single appointment over what could be multiple rates over a period of time. The mobile user checks in and out only once, and TimeTrak will go and check the settings against the roster, go and check the user's labor codes that are against each roster class, and split that time over the various rates. So I have an example of that. So from the admin console, I'll show you the setup. So we're going to go into Bruce Bowden and have a look at his labor code. So you can see here that we've got normal roster class, time and a half roster class, double time and a half. We do have some out of the box, and you can create your own. If we come into rosters, he belongs to the default roster. So you can have everyone belonging to a single roster, or they can have their own individuals. This is where we set up our normal, start of day, end of day productive hours. On the units tab though, this is where we block out what labor code or what roster class is against what time frame. So you can change that with a single click, or if we right click on them, we've got some options. So we can fill backwards, we can fill downwards, and we can fill forwards. Once you're happy with each user or with the roster, then we're all good to go. So if we come into TimeTrak Professional here, I've actually got a user set up where if he works over this period of time on an appointment, it covers more than one roster class. So as a scheduler, I'm just going to save the appointment for him. And as a mobile user, which I'll flip into this screen here, and head back to my home screen, I've now got that appointment on my list. For this demonstration, I'm not checking in and checking out. I'm just going to convert the time entry for the entire period of time. And when I click save, if I come back to TimeTrak Professional, it's easy to see what's happened. My appointment is turned into 3 separate time entries, and each time entry has its own labor code that we've matched up against those roster classes. So it automates that whole process for everybody. So there is no retrospectively going back and editing this anymore. If you want to handle this with rosters, then we can do so. Queues. Queues are pretty exciting, and they're really hard to explain. So queues are a temporary, but they don't have to be, scheduling workspace for activities that will be scheduled. A queue can be populated from a SQL query or have items assigned to it manually. A queue integrates heavily with our new map functions. Queue items can be bulk scheduled to a user's calendar, and I stress the a user's, single user's calendar. A queue item can be moved from one queue to another as a project progresses and time is created against each stage. Queues are completely customizable to the business requirements in each organization. So they're sort of a blank canvas, and then we kind of build them up to match what the business needs. So in this video here, I'm just going to show you what the admin console has around the setup of a queue and explain some of the features of it. So in here, I've got my current jobs queue. So we can limit the number of results. We can set a map location against our queue. When we create an appointment, we could update the job status, category, manager, appointment status and category, and likewise for the tasks. Now I'm just going to pause this for a second. When we create an appointment against a queue, we can use the user's default time units, or if your queue is a representative of a particular type of work, say it's always a service, a type of service that you have, and that you would normally book this for an hour, then you could set the queue duration in here for 60 minutes, and it will save every appointment for 60 minutes, regardless of what the user's time unit defaults are. The other thing that we've got here is some columns. So again, I will, when I get my mouse back, explain these with a pause. We've introduced 2 new columns into TimeTrak. One of them is the estimated time. It's a calculated column or a calculated field, and our remaining time. So how this works for the 2 different models with jobs and tasks is, if we come at it from the job perspective, this is going to look at all of the lines that are quoted where the copy to value is set to T, and that will be the estimated time of the job. The remaining time calculates all of the time entries that are currently in TimeTrak and have been pushed through to job costing against the job and give you the remaining time. If we come at it from a task perspective, the estimated time is the estimated time on the task. So in a task, you can set the estimated time. And the remaining time calculates both the time that is on the task as well as the time that has been posted against that task in job costing. Now I'll pause here again and explain our remove items after scheduled. So we can have 2 different types of queues here. We can have what we call an enduring queue, and that the items will load into the queue. And I should explain what items can go into a queue. A queue can house a client with a default job, a serviceable unit with a default job. It can house a task, and it can house a job. So any of those can be scheduled into a queue. So items that are removed after scheduled. When you create an appointment, the queue can diminish. So it could be that your queue houses everything that needs to be booked today. And as you go booking them in as appointments, that queue gets shorter and shorter. Or it could be an enduring queue. So for example, a project, or your queue might be representative of a piece of machinery on a manufacturing floor, or it could be all work that doesn't have appointments that is due in the upcoming month that hasn't been quoted, or anything, we can get it really, really custom. The other setting that I've got highlighted at the moment as well is the fact that we can move an item, a queue item, from one queue to the next. So the really good example of this is where we have a project that might go through various stages, and each queue could be a stage 1, stage 2, stage 3. Now, when a time entry is created against stage 1, we want that job, which is our queue item, to move into stage 2. So this allows it to do that. And it could be that until there's a time entry against stage 2, we don't want it to move into stage 3. And this allows your schedulers and your TimeTrak professional users to see the kind of work that they've got going and where your projects are on the go as well. Likewise, your mobile users can see queues, and they may be working on a piece of machinery or something like that, and they would see that this is now ready for stage 3, this piece of machinery. Because of the time entry against the previous stage has already been created. So a queue can be completely blank, or it could have some preloaded SQL into that. And I will demonstrate to you shortly how this will look in TimeTrak Professional and Mobile. but you can preview it, and we do have an example that you can use as well. So this is basically saying the top 50 jobs that are due between this week and next week, and we have one. The other example that I've got here is our Western Suburbs run. Now this doesn't have SQL in it. It does have its own individual colour. I am seeing the estimated and remaining times, but this is a queue that I would manually add items to as a scheduler. To sort of carry on the theme around queues, I'm going to introduce maps as well. So the queues and maps are quite interactive with each other. So now in maps, we can overlay the jobs, the clients, the serviceable units, and the tasks. These are the same things that integrate into our queues as well. Queues can be built from these items. So we may be looking at a map in a particular area and see all of our serviceable units in that area and assign them to a queue. A queue can have its route optimized in the Google Maps. So we do use Google Maps optimizing. It can be organized as well, the queue. And we can see the ETA and appointment time when a user is en route. So here's my video of how this looks. Okay, so here's our queue items here. This one here has SQL against it. So I can delete all of the items in my queue. And I've got a little kind of go button here, and I can repopulate it, just like that. It's going to give me my top 50 jobs. Now, if I unlock my queue, I can drag and drop these into different orders. So if you wanted to do the ordering of the work that you wanted to plan, then you could do that in your queue, and then you can relock it. Here's an example of a much shorter queue. So this is a good example of me scheduling a queue. So for my single user here, I've come into the following day. I've selected a time frame. I can paste from queue and choose the jobs due tomorrow. And what that's going to do is it's going to find all of those things and create an appointment for each queue item. If I come through to our map, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to expand out my screen a little bit so that we can see the map a bit better. As you can see here, we can see on the first top layer here of tabs, we can see appointments, jobs, users, clients, serviceable units, and tasks. On the second layer, we can see our queues. So I've come into my Western Suburbs queue here, and I've got a couple of items in here. Now I can select a job in that area, and I can assign it to my Western Suburbs queue, just like that. That way, if I'm sending my guy out to a particular area, I can have a look at everything that's due in this period and assign those jobs to his queue, things that are up and coming. Work group enhancements. So quite often now we have people who would work in teams, or you might have it that you would have a main tech guy out in the field and he would have an apprentice with him. Now you wouldn't give the apprentice his own device or necessarily his own login. So what he could be doing is set up as a schedule only user, and your team leader could be managing his schedule only users. So we've got permissions now where your professional user could see other users' work groups that are set up. So we could set up a work group for your mobile user, and the scheduler could see his work groups and maintain those work groups for him. Appointments can be preloaded, will preload the work group users when you're in a work group calendar, and users can be moved in and out of the work groups. So we'll just shift along to show you that. So I'm going to pick from my queue a job, and I'm going to pin it. Now I'm in a work group at the moment. I'm in Monday's team work group. Now I'm selecting just Harrison's calendar at this point, and I'm going to create him an appointment. Because I'm in a work group, that's immediately going to pick through the Monday's team work group here. I can change that if I need to, but it also preloads everybody that's in that work group for me. Now, I'm going to pause this real quick if I can get my thing to come up. In here, we can choose other users, and what we've done is we've added in icons for different types of users. So for example, in this where we've got the two different colored helmets, one of them is a subcontractor, another one is a schedule owner user. The little I want to say concrete mixer because I think that's what it is equipment. So we can choose other users if we want to and add appointments to them, even though they're not part of our work group. So as soon as we click save, our whole work group gets these appointments. So it certainly saves creating multiple appointments for users. Now there's an icon up in the corner on the left there that allows the scheduler to move people in and out of that work group quickly. So I'm adding Henry to my work group. And when I refresh my calendar, he'll pop up on it. Now, if I right-click on an existing appointment, I can copy it and drag it into Henry's appointment. Now, what we've added in to make this easy for everybody to manage is a relationship between all of these appointments. So now all of these appointments that were created for their work group now have a relationship to each other. Scheduling and appointment enhancements. So schedulers in TimeTrak Professional can now see where mobile users are clocked in and clocked off for the day. Now, if you're not familiar with clock in and clock off, this is different from checking in and out of the job. It's like a punch card. So we can say, this is when you started work and this is when you ended your day. We do this for those users who would possibly leave home and go directly to site. Or again, for that team leader sort of scenario where they might clock in themselves and other users, jump in a vehicle and go off to site. Schedulers can now see the ETA against your mobile user when they're traveling on site, and they can also see how long they've been on the job. So we've included this information into Professional. We can also see on the maps how long, what the user's route is, or their optimized route, and how they're tracking against it, and what their ETA is on the job site. Fantastic if you've got a client ringing you up saying, I can't find him, where is he? And you can say, hey, look, he's still traveling, he's around the corner. So this is clocking on for the day, and I'll run through, this will jump us in and out, this video, of mobile and professional so that we can kind of see the flow between the two websites. So my team leader is going to clock in for the day. He's got the option there to clock in all of his work group users, which is what he is going to do. Now, if I actually have a look at his work group, by clicking on that wee icon at the top there, I can actually see all the users that are clocked in for the day. Now, he could clock somebody out. So maybe he's supposed to turn up and he didn't. He's called in sick. Then the mobile user could clock out his team members. The professional user can see the clock-in information. This is his appointment for the day, and it tells us here who is going to also be checked in or traveling with me in here. Now, if I decided that I needed to actually add more people into that or check more people in, I can actually see the entire list of related appointments, not just my work group users. So I can manage those appointments as well. So I might have checked in my own group or started traveling and then added in someone else as well who turned up unexpectedly. If I come back to mobile here, I can see here those users that are allowed to travel, that they've now got a travel little truck on their time entry. And you can see up on the top of the screen here, the truck, and then we've got a bullseye here. So the truck is, this is how long we've been traveling and how far. The bullseye one is when we're expecting to be on site. Once I check into the appointment, so I'm now on site. And I come back to mobile, I've got my travel time entry against my users, and you can see now that the user is now on site. We're also tracking how long they've been on site. So what time did they actually check in and how long have they been there so far? In the maps here, we can see Samantha, and she is en route here, and she's 7 minutes away from her destination. We also have a new report here, and I'm going to pause this one again. This is a new report, and it's another screen basically that we overlay next to maps, so you have to have maps open. But what this one does is it allows you to see what your people are doing. So at the moment, Bruce is traveling. What time has he been traveling, who he's traveling to, and the next activity If it shows up as red, it means that he's not going to make it. So we're working out from the duration of his appointment and the fact that he may be checked in or still travelling on site as to whether or not he's actually going to make it on time to his next appointment. Likewise, if he's checked in, how long he's been checked in for, and whether or not they're going to make their next appointment. Now, this is great if you want to pop it up on another screen and have it sort of in an area where everybody can see this. And we have the option to change the background colour as well so that it can be easier to see. So we can make it black and the other or white, whatever's easiest for everybody to look at. So that's our scheduling tools that we've added in there. Our improved timeline scheduling and our custom fields are the next thing. So we have a timeline calendar in TimeTrak Professional that organises things users down the side of the calendar, and I'll demonstrate that to you in a second. And it makes it easier to see in sort of a bigger picture what your users are doing, rather than in a sort of more detailed calendar. One of the problems that we've sort of had with TimeTrak in the timeline view is getting enough information for people to actually see what appointments and time entries are about. So what we've introduced here is the ability to see up to 4 rows of customized information in all of our calendar settings, as well as other screens throughout TimeTrak. So that's TimeTrak Professional and TimeTrak Mobile that we can completely customize. So against a profile, so it's user-based, profile-based, we now can change the default, or we can set up the defaults and customize all of these things here to have their own information. So for example, time entry on a calendar tooltip, when you hover over it, you could choose to see information like this. Likewise, for the timeline view, we could have slightly different information. We might want to see serviceable unit things, queue lists in TimeTrak Professional and Mobile. If I come up to our calendar tooltip here, by clicking the space bar, it gives me a drop-down list, or I could have started typing. So I can add in these fields. This is our timeline view, so we've expanded out the amount of detail that we can see. And you can see here we've got the account number, the client name, the job number, the job name, the job address, job site address, and you can still move and drag and drop all of your items in the timeline view as normal. Right, questions. Now I'm going to have to expand this out so I can see the questions. And they're all really small on my screen. I wonder if I can make them any bigger. Can you please let me know if it is possible to email POs to the supplier directly from TT rather than having to save as a PDF? In TimeTrak Professional, not yet. So in Professional, we're hoping that you've got a PDF opener and you can email from within there. In TimeTrak Mobile, if you create a purchase order and we've got a purchase order form set up for you, then yes, you can email directly from there. Can you send the project template in Excel, please? Yes, I can, absolutely. Shane, I'll get you to flick me an email to say that you'd like it, and anybody else who would like the template for the task importing, then just flick me an email and I'll send it through to you. And that seems to be all of the questions that I've got at the moment. If you have a question, please type it into the question box. If you don't have, or you can't see the question box, or you're not quite sure what I'm talking about, you are always welcome to email us your questions, and I'm happy to answer in an email for you. Nope, going too many. If you would also like a copy of our What's New document, it does have a few more items than this, because obviously we're a little bit I could go on and on and on about all of the cool things in TimeTrak 4 that we've all waited for. Our What's New document is a little bit more comprehensive. I think it's got like 60 pages of new cool things. So I can email that to you, and we will have it on a website available for you as well. When is TimeTrak 4 available? So approximately 2 to 3 weeks. Our release date that we have tentatively set is the 30th of September. Keeping in mind that that's end of month and you probably don't want to roll that out straight away, we would book in a little bit later. The current process with this at the moment is that we are insisting that we put this on a test environment first. We will run through all of the features in testing, and then we will ask our clients to also run through testing with their processes as well and sign off before we upgrade your live. The reason that we're doing this is that we've completely rewritten all of the data structure in TimeTrak 4. It looks nothing like TimeTrak 3. Some of the pages look the same. The functionality is the same, but the data behind the scenes is completely different. So we need lots of testing. For those clients that have already got a test environment and they're happy to sign off on it, we can organise a rollout after the 30th of September into your live. So feel free to register your interest in this upgrade. Again, we will have to do the testing and get your sign off on it. So it's really important that we do that. It's a big change. And there may be some training around the new features as well. Up to you guys if you'd like that. So thank you very much for attending our webinar. Here's our email address as well. And don't forget to visit our new TimeTrak website, timetrak.co.nz. We've added in a ton more information into there. It looks fantastic. We talk about the kind of industries that we can support and what modules and features will support those industries. So if you are in an industry or if you are a dealer and you have wanting some more information about our product, then definitely jump onto our website and have a look. The other things that we offer you on our website is that we're adding tips of the week to it for TimeTrak. We also have white papers on really big nitty-gritty things as well. And we've also got videos and some how-to documents and things too that sort of take you through some of the features and things. So we'll be introducing more for TimeTrak 4 from the end of September onwards, but we do have some blog articles in there already. So thank you all very much for your time. Oh wait, do I have more questions? Okay, yep, Joanne. When you're using a queue, can you allocate time to task 3 when you're still allocating time to task 1 or 2? Yes, you can. Yes, absolutely. I can send through the list of the things that it does. The new document, absolutely. And Wendy. Fantastic, guys. So thank you very much for your questions. Thank you very much for your time. And I will get emails out to those that have asked for it so far. And I will also, anybody else who emails us directly or emails me directly, I'll send them through to you. Don't be afraid to ask questions. And I look forward to getting TimeTrak 4 on all of you. Thank you very much.